My name is Evan Mercer, and for 2 years, I worked the night shift at a dead mall on the edge of our town. It's one of those fading places people forget exist, even when they drive right past it. You don't notice it unless you're looking for it. The parking lot is cracked, grass pushing through the pavement. Half the lights in the lot don't turn on anymore, and the ones that do flicker like old candles fighting the wind. By day, a few stores still open their doors. A clothing outlet, a cheap shoe store, a smoothie stand that pretends it still has customers. But at night, the mall becomes something else entirely. Quiet, but never at peace. I took the night guard job because it paid well, and because I thought it would be simple. How hard could it be to watch a building sleep? Walk a few halls, check cameras, drink coffee, pretend to look busy. I used to laugh at the idea that a mall could be scary. A mall is supposed to be loud, full of life, full of light. But this place died years before I arrived, and whatever remained inside was not resting. On my first night, the supervisor, a thin man with deep circles under his eyes, handed me a little laminated card. He didn't shake my hand. He didn't smile. He didn't welcome me. He just placed the card in my palm and said, "Read it, memorize it, follow it." He didn't wait for me to respond. He walked out to his car and drove away. The card had 4 rules. Simple words, but the way they were written, the handwriting on the margins, the faded stains, something about it felt wrong. Like the card had been carried by many guards before me, and none of them wanted to keep it. The rules said, Rule 1. If you hear a child calling your name from the food court after midnight, don't answer. It is not a child. Rule 2. Stay away from the West Wing escalators between 1:30 and 2 a.m. They don't take you where you think. Rule 3. Never shine your flashlight into mirrors after dark. Reflections don't always follow you. Rule 4. Do not open the emergency door behind the old arcade. That door shouldn't exist. I almost laughed. It felt like a Halloween prank someone forgot to collect. I slipped the card into my pocket and started my patrol. That first night was calm. No voices, no shadows, no strange escalators. Just old smells, damp air, dusty tiles, old perfume leaking out from closed stores. But around 11, the kids came. A group of them, 5 or 6. They slipped in from somewhere I never fully figured out. They were maybe 10, 12, 13 years old, all carrying glow sticks, all whispering, all dressed like they came here often. They weren't here to vandalize. They weren't here to steal. They were playing a game they called Shadow Tag. I watched them from a distance as they darted between stores, hiding behind mannequins, running with such fear in their steps it didn't look like play at all. Their glow sticks left streaks of green, blue, and purple light behind them, carving little trails in the dark. One of them, Eli, kept looking over his shoulder. Every other minute his eyes shot toward the escalators or the mirrors or the darker corners of the mall like he expected something to reach out and grab him. When I finally confronted them, Eli stepped forward. He was breathing hard, and his shirt was torn near the shoulder. He held a plastic mask in his left hand, and his eyes locked onto mine like he'd been waiting for me. "We're almost done," he said. "Don't stop us, please." His voice trembled, not from running, from fear. I opened my mouth to argue, but he shook his head hard and whispered something that chilled me more than the empty mall ever could. "Never let anyone touch you twice," he said. "If they do, run." I stood there, confused. The kids ran off, and I didn't stop them. I didn't know why, but something in Eli's voice pulled all the anger out of me. He wasn't playing. None of them were. That was the first week. The week the mall started waking up. The escalators began moving for a few seconds at a time, grinding their steps like metal teeth chewing on ghosts. The lights in the West Wing flickered every night at 1:30 a.m. sharp. Mirrors had smudges I knew I didn't leave. Footsteps echoed through empty halls. I told myself it was just the building settling, just old circuits, just my imagination. But every time I tried to shake the feeling, something else happened. A store mirror in the clothing shop fogged up like someone breathed on it. A single soda machine in the dark food court beeped like someone pressed a button. The fountain in the center of the mall rippled, even without water flowing. And then, one night, I heard something new. It was close to midnight. I was walking past the food court entrance when a soft voice drifted out of the shadows. "Evan." I froze. My name, my exact name, whispered like a fragile secret. I took one step back. My heart thudded. My eyes scanned the empty chairs, the dusty counters, the dead neon signs. "Evan, come here." It sounded like a child, but I remember the rule. Rule 1. If you hear a child calling your name after midnight, don't answer. My throat dried. My mouth refused to open. I turned around and forced myself to walk away. The voice followed me down the hall. "Evan, please." I didn't run. I didn't look back. I walked fast and shut myself inside the security office. The voice faded, but the cameras started to glitch. All 8 feeds flickered. Static rolled across every screen like snow in a blizzard. Then the shapes came. A tall figure strolling near the fountain. Something crawling behind mannequins, limbs too long. A child crouched in a corner, face buried in its knees. A blurry silhouette looking straight into a camera, head tilting in sharp angles like a broken puppet. I stared at the screens until everything went black. The monitors shut off completely. The power in the room flickered twice. When the screens came back on, every single one showed the same thing. The West Wing escalators. The steps were moving on their own. The building had no power to that section at night. None. But the escalators were alive, grinding slowly, pulling air downward, breathing out warm fog from their steps. And then, I saw him, Eli, standing at the bottom of the escalator with his back to the camera. Still, silent, like he'd been waiting for something. His shadow stretched behind him. And then, the shadow moved before he did. It climbed the escalator first, tugged upward by something unseen. Then Eli's body followed a moment later, lagging behind like it didn't fully belong to him. I blinked. He was gone. The escalator turned off by itself, and the mall went silent. I didn't want to leave the security office that night. Every instinct in me said to stay inside, lock the door, and wait for morning. But the air in the room felt heavy, like the mall itself was leaning and listening, breathing with me. I stood there for a long time, staring at the frozen feet of the escalators. The image didn't change, but something about it felt alive. Like if I blinked too long, that screen would show me something I wasn't ready to see. I finally forced myself to step outside. At first, nothing felt unusual. The halls were quiet. The air was cold and still. The mannequins in the storefronts stared blankly into nothing. But then I heard it. A soft tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. It came from ahead of me, near the fountain. I should have walked the other direction. I know that now. But curiosity pushed me forward. Curiosity and fear. I needed to know if Eli was still inside. I needed to know if the voice calling my name earlier was him, or something pretending to be him. The tapping grew louder as I approached the center of the mall. The cracked fountain sat under the dim skylight, shadows stretching long across the floor. And then, from behind one of the stone pillars, something leaned out. "Evan." It was a whisper, a child's whisper, but not Eli's this time. Higher pitched, lighter, like someone very young. My chest tightened. I stepped back. The voice came again, closer this time. "Evan, come here." I clenched my fists. Rule 1 echoed in my mind like a warning siren. Don't answer. It is not a child. So I didn't. I kept my mouth shut. I held my breath. I stayed still. A small figure stepped into the dim light. It looked like a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. But his face was wrong. Blurry, like a smudge on wet glass. Like the mall was trying to remember what a child looked like, but couldn't get it right. He took one slow step toward me, then another. His shoes left no sound on the tiles. He lifted his arm as if reaching for me, his fingers trembling. "Evan, why didn't you answer?" His voice twisted on the last word. the pitch deepening into something older, something ancient. I stepped away. He moved faster. I turned and ran. The sound of small feet chased me down the hall, echoing like dozens of footsteps instead of one. I sprinted past the empty stores, past the dark mirrors, past the mannequins that all seemed to be looking at me now. When I reached the far hallway, the lights flickered violently. All of them, one by one, like something walked beneath each bulb, killing the light above it. I ducked into the shoe store and pressed myself behind a shelf of dusty boxes. My breath shook. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I tried to make no sound, not even a whisper. And then, from the hallway, tap, 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 slow, deliberate, getting closer. I bit down on my tongue to stop it from shaking. I squeezed my eyes shut. A shadow appeared on the wall outside the store. But it wasn't a child's shadow. It was taller, thinner, stretching across the tiles like fingers reaching. The tapping stopped. Silence swallowed the air like a vacuum. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. A minute. Then a whisper slid into the room like cold air, leaking through a crack. "You can't hide, Evan." I felt sick, like something was crawling under my skin. Something pressed lightly on the store's glass window. A fingertip, then another. Tap, tap. Then the tapping stopped. I waited as long as I could before stepping out. When I finally walked back into the hallway, everything looked normal again. Too normal. Like the mall hid what happened the moment I wasn't watching. I walked toward the west wing, against my better judgment. My feet moved on their own. Maybe I wanted proof. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe the mall wanted me to see something. But when I reached the escalators, the air changed. A cold wind pushed down the steps, even though the building was sealed. The escalators groaned. The metal rattled. And then I saw it. A hand. A pale, thin hand reaching from between the escalator steps. Fingers curling. Searching. Feeling the air. I didn't move. A second hand appeared, gripping the metal rail. Then a face rose slowly between the steps. Not a full face. Just the top half. Eyes too wide. Skin stretched. Mouth hidden behind the metal. The head turned, staring at me. A whisper drifted up the escalator. "Evan, come here." I stepped backward, so fast I nearly fell. The escalator shut off. The hands disappeared instantly. The eyes blinked out like a light. The metal stilled. I didn't breathe until I reached the other side of the mall. I walked toward the arcade. The old machines were dead, screens cracked, buttons missing. The prize counter was covered in dust. But the silence felt wrong. The air felt warm around the emergency door behind the claw machine. That door. Rule 4. Do not open the emergency door behind the arcade. I hadn't noticed it before, but tonight it was cracked open. No light came from the other side. Only darkness, thick and heavy, and something breathing. A slow inhale, a long exhale. My heart pounded. My palms sweated. Every bone in my body screamed at me to back away. But then I heard a sound from inside that door. A tiny whisper. "Evan, help me." "Eli." It was Eli's voice. Raw, weak, begging. My throat closed. Tears stung the corners of my eyes. "Eli," I whispered before I could stop myself. A mistake. A huge mistake. The breathing inside the doorway stopped. The air grew still. Then footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps. Coming toward the door. Something gently tapped the inside of the door frame. Once. Twice. 2 taps. The kid's rule. Eli's warning. Never let anyone touch you twice. I staggered backward. The door creaked wider. And for a split second, I saw a face inside. Not a creature. Not a monster. Not a shadow. Eli. But wrong. His neck was bent at an impossible angle. His eyes were dark and reflective like mirrors. His mouth stretched open silently. Too wide, too forced. He took one step forward, his arms dangling, his legs stiff like broken joints. "Evan," he whispered through teeth that didn't move. "You're late." I ran. I didn't look back. The hallway twisted around me like a maze that kept rearranging itself. Doors closed by themselves. Lights flickered so fast they buzzed like insects. The air felt electric, heavy, charged with something ancient. When I reached the loading dock door, I grabbed the handle and pulled with everything I had. The cold night air washed over me like a blessing. I stepped out and then felt it. A small hand grabbed my wrist. Another tapped my shoulder. One tap, two taps. A voice pressed against my ear. "You're it now." My vision went white. When I woke up, I was lying in the parking lot outside the mall. Cold asphalt pressed against my cheek, and a thin layer of frost coated my jacket. The loading dock door behind me was closed. The locks were in place. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. For a few moments, I didn't understand where I was or how I got there. My mind felt foggy, like waking from a dream you're not sure was yours. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No wind, no cars, not even crickets. Just the empty night humming like a held breath. I sat up slowly, rubbing my head. My vision swam. My body ached like I'd been dragged across concrete. The second thing I noticed was my shadow. It was wrong. It lagged behind me by a full second. I lifted my hand, and only after a moment did the shadow copy me. Like it had to think about it first. Like there was a delay between me and whatever was copying me now. A warm wave of nausea hit me. I staggered to my feet, staring at that delayed outline on the ground. No, please," I whispered, shaking my head. But the shadow kept lagging. When I took a step backward, the shadow took its step late. When I touched my chest, it did the same late. When I covered my mouth, it followed late. Something had touched me twice. Something had tagged me. And now, whatever game the kids were playing, I was playing it too. I forced myself to drive home, though my hands trembled on the steering wheel the whole way. Every time I passed a streetlight, I saw the shadow in the corner of my eye, delayed, slow, watching me. I try not to look at mirrors, but reflections caught me anyway. In shop windows, in car glass, even in the dark reflection of my phone screen. My reflection blinked wrong. Late. Too slow. When I reached my apartment, I locked the door, shut the curtains, turned on every light I owned, and sat on the couch until morning. Every so often I heard small taps. On the window, on the wall, on the floor near my feet. Tap, tap. Always two. Always soft. At sunrise, everything stopped. My shadow moved normally again. My reflection blinked when I blinked. Everything looked normal. Almost. There was a thin black mark on my wrist. A fingerprint. A smudge. Like something small had grabbed me with dirty hands. I scrubbed it until my skin turned red, but the mark stayed. I didn't go back to the mall for 2 days. I called in sick. My voice sounded weak on the phone, and the new supervisor didn't argue. He simply said, "Take your time." That was strange. He never cared about me before. But the whole time I was home, I felt watched. Not from outside, from inside my own home. I would be standing in the kitchen and feel something behind me. I would be brushing my teeth and hear a soft giggle behind the shower curtain. I would lie down at night and hear whispers in the corner of the room, barely audible, like someone humming a lullaby off-key. I slept with the light on. It didn't help. On the second night, around 3 a.m., I heard something small move across the floor. A soft dragging sound, like someone crawling on their hands and knees. I shot up in bed and grabbed my phone. I didn't see anything at first. Then I saw it. A small shape crouched in the far corner of my bedroom. Its head was down. Its body shivered with soft breaths. Its hands pressed flat against the floor. A child, but not a child. It slowly lifted its head. Its eyes reflected the light like dark marbles. Its mouth hung open, silently, as if waiting for something. My phone slipped from my fingers. The shape tilted its head to the left, then sharply to the right, too far, like a puppet with loose strings. Then it whispered, quiet and strained, "Evan, where are you?" I didn't stay to hear the rest. I ran from my apartment. I didn't lock the door. I didn't even put on shoes. I got in my car and drove with shaking hands. Where did I go? Back to the mall. I know how stupid that sounds. But when you're trapped in something you don't understand, you run to the only place connected to the nightmare. Because maybe, just maybe, the answers are there. When I pulled in the mall's parking lot, the sunrise was still a few hours away. The building sat in the half-darkness like a sleeping beast. The lights were off, the windows were fogged from a cold, and the entrance doors, usually locked, were slightly open. Just a crack, just enough for a shadow to slip through. A thin fog rolled out from the doorway, curling around my legs as I approached. I swallowed hard and stepped inside. The air inside the mall was warm, too warm, like someone had turned the heaters on full blast. My breath didn't fog, but the hallway did. The air shimmered with heat, but the tiles were colder than ice under my feet. Something was wrong, more wrong than usual. I walked slowly, every step echoing unnaturally loud. My footsteps overlapped with something else. A second set, small, light, following me in perfect rhythm. I didn't look back. When I reached the fountain, I froze. Water. There was water in it. The fountain had been dry for years. Cracked. Empty. But now it was full. Completely full. Dark water rippling gently, though nothing touched its surface. A faint voice came from the water. Soft, thin, almost drowning. Evan. I stepped away. My legs brushed against something. A small glow stick lay on the floor behind me. Broken. Dim. The same ones the kids used. I picked it up with shaking fingers. Eli's name was scratched into the plastic. My throat tightened. "Where are you?" I whispered. A cold wind blew across my neck, and a whisper pressed into my ear. "Behind you." I spun around. The mall was different. The hallway was longer. The walls were darker, and the mannequins from the clothing store were standing in the open, not behind glass, lined up in a perfect row, all facing me. Their hands were down, but their heads were all tilted to the left. I stumbled backward until I hit the fountain. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I looked down. 2 watery handprints floated up from beneath the surface. Small hands, child-sized. Then a face emerged. Not fully, just the top half. Eyes wide open, mouth hidden below the waterline. Not breathing, not moving, just watching me. I screamed and stumbled back, slipping on a wet tile. My hands hit the ground hard. When I looked up, the face was gone. The water rippled softly, like a settling heartbeat. I turned away and sprinted toward the West Wing. Every instinct told me not to. Rule 2 pounded in my mind like a warning drum. But the hallway behind me looked wrong. Longer, twisted, like it was waiting to swallow me. So I ran straight toward the escalators. When I reached them, they were already moving. Slow, steady, grinding downward into darkness. And at the bottom stood a shape. Eli. He lifted his head. His mouth stretched slowly, painfully wide, as if pulled by invisible hooks. His arms hung limp. His legs bent at odd angles. His shadow lagged behind him. But this time, his shadow was not alone. Another shadow stood behind his. Tall, thin, looming. Slowly, they both raised their hands. Tap, tap, 2 taps against the metal. Then Eli whispered, "You're it now, so come play." I stood frozen at the top of the escalators, staring down at Eli and the tall shadow behind him. His voice echoed in the dark hallway like it belonged to something older, deeper, nothing like the boy I had chased out of here weeks ago. His arms hung limp at his sides, but his fingers twitched, slow, rhythmic movements like he was trying to signal something I didn't understand. "I won't go down there," I said, barely able to speak. My voice sounded weak, shaking, like it didn't belong to me. "Eli, please let me go." He tilted his head the same strange way every mannequin in the mall seemed to tilt theirs. A stiff, unnatural angle. His expression didn't change, but I could feel a smile behind his empty eyes. "You're it," he whispered. "You have to play." The escalators groaned louder. The entire metal frame vibrated beneath my feet. I felt it through the floor, the grinding of gears turning in a direction that didn't exist. The steps no longer moved in a smooth loop. They shifted like uneven breaths, stuttering forward, slipping back, sliding sideways, like the entire escalator was alive and hungry. I tried to step away, but something cold wrapped around my ankle. I looked down and saw a wet handprint on the step beneath me. Not a hand, just the print of one, shaped into the metal like it had melted into the surface. It tightened. I gasped and kicked hard. My shoe hit metal, and the print disappeared instantly, leaving no sign that anything had been there. But the escalator vibrated under me, responding like a muscle twitching. Eli took a small step forward, but his shadow stayed behind. It watched me, stretching across the steps like something waiting for the right moment to pounce. "You shouldn't have answered," Eli said. My heart ice-cracked inside my chest. "I didn't answer you," I whispered. "I never." But then I remembered the night in my apartment. The small voice in the corner. The whisper. The shape crouched in the dark. I had answered. Not at the mall, but at home. Eli smiled, stretched and unnatural. "You did," he said softly. "You always do. That's why it chooses you." A strong gust of warm air rushed up from the escalator, hitting me in the face. It smelled like damp metal and old breath, like something that had lived below the mall long before anyone built stores above it. The shadow behind Eli took a step forward, but this time, its movement didn't match his. The shadow moved first. Eli's body followed late. A second delay, like my shadow that night. I stumbled backwards until I hit a pillar. My mind raced, desperate for any exit, any escape route, any place to hide. Then something unexpected happened. A sudden, sharp sound came from the other end of the hallway. A whistle. A low, clear, soft whistle. Not from a child. Not from the mall. From something alive. Something familiar. I knew that sound. I'd heard it every time they snuck in. The kids. The rest of them. I turned toward the sound. In the shadows past the fountain, I saw small shapes moving, fast, hiding behind pillars, ducking behind broken benches, peeking around corners. They were here, not to play, to hide. One of them, Jonah, a boy I'd seen with Eli before, stepped out just far enough that I could see his face. His glowstick bracelet wasn't glowing anymore. The plastic was dry, brittle, but he raised his hand and pointed behind me. I turned back toward the escalators. Eli was gone. So was the shadow. The steps stood still, motionless, silent, as if nothing had moved in years. But I knew something had. Something was awake. Jonah waved me over urgently. My legs moved before my mind did. I ran toward him, my footsteps echoing too loudly. When I reached him, he grabbed my sleeve and pulled me behind a broken display card. "Are you stupid?" he hissed. "Why did you come back here?" I didn't have a choice," I whispered. "Something came to my apartment. I told you not to let it touch you," Jonah snapped. "If it tags you twice, you're marked." "I know," I whispered. "I know now." He looked at my wrist, at the faint dark smudge I couldn't wash off. "It tagged you." I nodded. Jonah swallowed hard. His fear was so real it seeped into me. "You have to stay with us now," he said. "At least until the mall sleeps again." "What does that mean?" I whispered. He pointed upward, and that's when I heard it. A slow, deep rumble. The sound of lights turning off, one by one, not flickering, clicking, like someone was flipping giant switches across the entire building. Darkness swallowed the halls behind us. It moved like a wave. Fast, steady, unavoidable. Jonah's hands trembled. "It's looking for you," he whispered. "Run." The kids moved quickly, signaling each other with hand motions, as if they'd practiced this 100 times. I followed them, barely breathing, my heart punching against my ribs. We sprinted through the mall while the wave of darkness chased us, store by store, hall by hall, swallowing every light. I didn't dare look back. The kids led me into an old maintenance corridor behind the food court. It smelled like dust and rust. Pipes lined the ceiling. The tile floor was cracked and uneven. Jonah placed 2 fingers over his lips, telling me to be silent. Then he pointed at a small storage room at the far end of the corridor. "We hide there," he mouthed. Before we reached it, I heard a familiar voice echo through the halls. "Evan." It was Eli, but not Eli. It came from everywhere at once. No direction, no source, just the mall itself saying my name with his voice. Jonah grabbed my arm and pulled me inside the storage room. It was pitch dark. He closed the door silently. The room was small, cramped, filled with old paint cans and cleaning supplies. The kids crouched around me, their breathing fast and uneven. No one spoke. We waited. A soft sound echoed through the corridor outside. Tap, tap, 2 taps on the wall, then a gentle dragging sound. Something walked slowly down the hallway. Step drag, step drag. Jonah's hand trembled against the door. The dragging grew louder, closer. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Silence. I held my breath. Then a whisper pressed through the cracks of the door. A whisper so soft it felt like breath on my ear. "Evan, open up." The kids pressed closer together. One of them started to cry silently. Jonah covered his mouth to muffle the sound. The handle rattled, not violently, slowly, like someone testing how locked it was. Then, 2 soft taps on the door. Tap, tap. My stomach twisted. Tears filled my eyes. I didn't move. I couldn't. The tapping stopped. A long pause. Then footsteps again. Step, drag, step, drag, growing softer until finally, silence. We stayed in that room for what felt like an hour. Jonah finally cracked the door open and peeked out. He nodded for us to follow. We stepped back into the corridor. The air felt lighter. The mall felt still. But something was wrong. The corridor was longer now. Much longer. As if it had stretched in the dark. Far down the hall, I saw shadows move on their own, sliding along the walls like spilled ink. Jonah tugged my sleeve. "We're going to the old dentist's office," he whispered. "It's the only place it can't go." "What?" I asked. He swallowed. "Too many mirrors," he said quietly. "It hates mirrors. They show its real shape." A cold shiver crawled up my spine. We hurried through the distorted hallway, avoiding the moving shadows. Every few seconds, one of the kids signaled for us to stop or go or hide. They weren't scared of the mall. They were trained for it. They'd been playing this game far longer than I knew. At the entrance to the dentist's office, Jonah stopped me. "Whatever you do," he whispered, "don't look directly at any mirror in there." "What?" I asked. He stared at me with wide, tired eyes. "Because you're marked," he said. "If you look, it'll know exactly where you are." I didn't argue. The dentist's office was cold, silent. The smell of old antiseptic hung in the air. Mirrors covered the walls, small round ones, large rectangular ones, broken shards in drawers. The kids gathered in the center of the room. Jonah closed the door softly. "We have until 2 a.m., he whispered. "Then the escalators stop. And when they stop, it sleeps again. What happens if it finds us before then?" I asked. He didn't answer. The shadows outside the office shifted. Something scraped along the wall. A slow drag. "Why did Eli disappear?" I whispered. Jonah's face fell. "He got tagged," he said. "We warned him, but he didn't listen." I stared at him. "What is it? What tags you?" Jonah shook his head. "No one knows. It lives under the mall, in the dark places, between floors, behind the walls. It copies kids first, then adults. It takes them into the parts of the mall that aren't real." He looked at my wrist. "And now you're marked too." I swallowed hard. "What happens to people who get marked?" Jonah said nothing for a long moment. Then he whispered, "You start changing." My breath caught. "No." Jonah nodded. "It starts small. Your shadow delays. Your reflection stares at you. You hear your name in empty places." My legs shook. "That's already happening," I whispered. He placed a hand on my shoulder. "We'll try to help you," he said. "But if you change too much..." He didn't finish the sentence. Outside the office, the lights flickered again. The shadows on the floor stretched toward the door. Jonah grabbed my arm. "It's close," he whispered. "Stay still." The shadows stopped just outside the door. For a moment, I saw a tall shape through the frosted glass. Long limbs, a crooked head, hands pressed against the glass. Then something even worse happened. The door handle turned. Slow, deliberate. The kids held their breath. The door creaked open 2 inches. A cold whisper slid into the room. Evan. But this time, the voice didn't sound like Eli. It sounded like me. My exact voice. Soft, broken, calling from the other side of the door. Evan, let me in. My knees buckled. I knew then, the mall wasn't copying Eli anymore. It was copying me. Hearing my own voice whisper through that half-open door did something to me that nothing else in that mall ever had. It broke something inside me. It felt like someone reached into my chest and twisted a nerve that wasn't meant to be touched. The sound was perfect. Every tone, every breath, every tremble. Like someone recorded the way I cried as a child, then played it back through cracked speakers. Evan, the voice whispered again. Why are you hiding from me? The kids pressed together in the center of the room. Jonah raised his hand, signaling them not to move. But I couldn't tear my eyes from the door. The frosted glass showed only a blended shadow. Long, bending, swaying slightly side to side. The handle twitched, almost gently, like the thing behind it was debating whether to enter. Something soft brushed the crack in the door. Tap, tap. Not loud, not angry, like a friend knocking. My heart slammed in my chest. My knees felt weak enough to collapse. I'm alone out here, the voice said, still mine. Still perfect, still wrong. Please open the door. The kids stared at me with wide, terrified eyes. I shook my head. It's not me, I whispered. We know. Jonah breathed. Just stay quiet. But then something worse happened. The voice outside changed. It sounded like crying. My crying. The way I cried 11 years old when my dad left. The way I cried when my grandfather passed away. It remembered those moments. It played them for me like a cruel game. Don't leave me out here. Please. Tears rolled down my cheeks without me noticing. My throat tightened until I couldn't breathe. The creature knocked again. Tap, tap. And this time it whispered, even softer. You're already becoming one of us. My body went cold. My vision blurred. I stepped back from the door, shaking all over. Jonah grabbed me by the wrist. The same wrist that had the dark fingerprint smudge. Don't listen to it, he whispered urgently. It lies. It lies to make you open the door. I nodded, though I could barely hear him over my own heartbeat. For a long moment, the hallway outside went silent. Then, without warning, the creature dragged something across the floor. A long, slow scrape. Metal on tile. Heavy. Unhurried. Like it was bringing something with it. The shadows under the door flickered. A new silhouette appeared. Smaller. A child-sized one. Standing beside the tall one. The small one leaned forward until its forehead pressed to the frosted glass. Then it whispered. You're it, remember? That was Eli's voice. The doorknob twisted all the way. The door shook once. Hard. The kids jumped. Jonah grabbed my arm. It's trying to force its way in, he whispered. But it hates mirrors. That's why it doesn't come here. The scraping sound moved away. Both shadows faded. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Slow, dragging, uneven. Until they were gone completely. Jonah opened the door, slightly, and peeked out. Nothing. Silence. He motioned for us to follow. We have 15 minutes until 2 a.m., he whispered. We have to move. The mall sleeps at 2. That's our only chance to leave. We stepped back into the hallway. Except, it wasn't the same hallway anymore. It stretched longer. Much longer. The ceiling seemed lower. The air warmer. The shadows deeper. What's happening? I whispered. The mall changes when it's awake, Jonah said. It's trying to keep us inside. Keep you inside. The pressure behind my eyes grew. A throbbing ache pulsed in my skull. My vision darkened at the edges. Every so often, the hallway flickered, like a camera losing signal, and I saw things that shouldn't be there. Children crawling on the ceiling, legs bending backward, faces pressed into the walls, bodies walking without heads, heads floating without bodies. Each blink made it worse. The kids ran ahead of me, but Jonah stayed close, watching me with worry. You're changing, he whispered. It's getting faster. What do you mean? I asked, breath shaking. He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted my arm. My wrist, the one with the fingerprint, was darker now. No longer a smudge. A full handprint, burned into my skin like soot. I felt numbness spreading on my forearm. "It's pulling you in," Jonah said, "trying to make you one of them." I sucked in a sharp breath. No, Jonah, please." He grabbed both sides of my face and stared into my eyes. "You're still here," he said quietly. "Your eyes still look normal, mostly. You haven't changed too much yet, but we have to move." The other kids whistled softly, a signal I didn't understand, and we ran together through the twisting halls. The mall lights buzzed overhead. The air thickened. Shadows crawled along the floor, slithering after us like living ink. We reached a part of the mall I'd never seen before. A hallway with old movie posters on the wall. A closed bookstore. A cracked tile floor. "This isn't real," I said. "This hall wasn't here." "It is when it wants to be," Jonah muttered. "When it wants to be." As we rounded a corner, a sound echoed through the mall. A loud metallic crash, followed by a scream. One of the kids froze. "That's Sarah," he whispered. Jonah grabbed his shoulder. "No, keep moving." But the kid pulled away and ran back down the hall. Sarah, wait," I yelled. Jonah cursed and ran after him. We followed. The crash came again, louder, like something was slamming into metal. A gate, a door, something trying to break open. We reached an old employee-only hallway. The air was colder, dustier, stale. A metal storage cage at the end of the hall rattled like something inside was shaking it violently. "Sarah," the boy cried. I grabbed his arm. "Stop. You don't know if that's really her." He sobbed. "But it sounds like her." Another crash. Harder. A high, frantic scream followed. "Help me, please." It sounded real. Too real. Jonah pushed past me and grabbed the cage lock. "It's a trap," he whispered. "It learns voices. It uses them." The kid stepped forward. "If we don't help her, she'll die." Before any of us could react, he grabbed a fallen metal pipe and smashed it into the lock. Again and again, until the lock snapped. "Stop," Jonah shouted. It was too late. The kid ripped the cage door open. A small figure sat in the darkness inside. We all froze. At first, it looked like Sarah. The same height, the same hair, the same trembling shoulders. But then she looked up. Her eyes were entirely black. No light, no reflection, just empty, endless dark. Her legs bent the wrong way beneath her. Her arms were too long. Her jaw hung open like it was unhinged. Then her mouth stretched wide, and she whispered in Eli's voice, "You're all it." She moved. Fast. Too fast to follow. She lunged at the boy who opened the door. He screamed as she grabbed his face, tapping twice, one tap on each cheek. The boy froze. His entire body stiffened. Then, slowly he smiled. Too wide, too sharp. His shadow lagged behind as he turned. Jonah grabbed my arm and pulled me. "Run, run, run." We sprinted through the hall as Sarah crawled after us on all fours, her limbs cracking, her bones popping with each movement. The boy followed, laughing, but not with his own voice. With mine. "Wait for me," he whispered. "Don't leave me behind." Jonah shoved me through a service door and slammed it behind us. We ran down a long ramp, deeper into the mall's maintenance levels. The walls down here were wet. The floor dipped under our weight like soft clay. Pipes groaned overhead. The kids led me into an old boiler room. Thick metal doors. Heavy latches. No mirrors. No windows. Jonah sealed the door. For a moment, just a moment, we were safe. Everyone was silent, breathing hard, crying softly, holding each other. I sank to the floor, head in my hands. "What do we do now?" I whispered. Jonah sat next to me. "We wait," he said. "When the mall sleeps at 2 a.m., everything resets. If we're alive by then, you might break the connection." "Break it?" I asked. He nodded. "It won't stop until you're one of them. But if you survive the night, it loses its hold. You'll still be marked, but you'll be yourself again." I looked at my wrist. The handprint pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. "And if I don't survive?" I whispered. Jonah looked away. "Then your voice joins the rest." I closed my eyes. My body shook uncontrollably. Outside the boiler room door, I heard footsteps. Slow, scraping. 2 sets, then 3, then more. They gathered outside the door, dozens of them. Then a whisper, deep and layered, crawled through the cracks. "Evan, open the door, we're waiting." "Jonah, shook his head. Don't move. Don't make a sound. The voices multiplied. Some sounded like children, some like adults, some like me. Tap, 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 tap. They tapped the metal door over and over. Then they began to hum, a soft, eerie lullaby, one I'd heard somewhere before. The melody my mother used to sing to me when I was small. My chest tightened, my eyes blurred. How does it know that? I whispered. Jonah didn't answer. I think he already knew. I think they all did. The tapping grew faster, the humming louder, the scraping more frantic. Then everything stopped. Total silence. The air thickened. The shadows under the door stretched. Then something whispered, "We found you." The moment that whisper slipped under the boiler room door, every kid in the room froze. Even the strongest of them, the ones who had survived this place longer than I had, went completely silent. Their bodies went rigid. Their breath stopped. Their eyes locked on the door like they expected it to split open. I pressed my back against the far wall. My pulse hammered in my ears. My skin prickled, every hair rising at once. Nobody moved. Nobody dared breathe. Outside the door, something dragged its fingers across the metal. Slowly, patiently, a deep groaning sound followed, like the metal frame of the boiler room was under pressure, like the whole thing was being squeezed by something huge. Jonah leaned close and whispered into my ear, "That's not Eli. That's not any of the kids. That's the real one. The one that lives under them all." My throat tightened. "What does it want with me?" I whispered. Jonah swallowed. "It wants you because you heard it. You answered it. And now it wants to finish the change." The handprint on my wrist had throbbed. A faint pulse beneath the skin. Like something inside it was alive. Outside the door, the voices started again. Too many voices. Layered. Stacked. Crawling over each other like insects in a jar. "Evan, open. You're ours. Come play. Let us in your it." My name echoed in 100 tones. Children. Adults. Something else. Something that sounded like wet stone grinding together. The door latch shook violently. The metal strained. Jonah put his hand over it. "Don't open it," he whispered. "Even if it sounds like someone you love. Even if it sounds like yourself. Don't open it." My eyes burned. My breath trembled. The voices shifted. And then, I heard my mother's voice. Clear. Soft. Wavering. "Evan, honey, please. I need you." My chest cracked open. My whole body pulled forward. "No," Jonah hissed. "That's not her. It's pulling in memories. Don't let it." But my mother's voice. I hadn't heard her speak like that since she got sick. I covered my ears. But the voice came through anyway. "Evan, open the door. I'm scared." Tears fell down my cheeks. And then, as if the thing sensed my weakness, the humming started again. The lullaby. My lullaby. The one she sang when I was a child. The one she sang the night I broke my arm. The one she sang when I cried so hard I couldn't speak. Every note was perfect. Every word exact. My vision blurred. I reached toward the door without realizing it. Jonah grabbed my wrist, the marked one, and yanked me back. "Don't." The kid stared at me with wide, terrified eyes. I fell to my knees and sobbed into my hands. Outside, the humming stopped. A new voice started speaking. My voice, but not the version I knew. This version of me sounded broken, hollow, like someone took my voice and removed everything human from it. "Evan," it whispered. "I'm already inside." Jonah's face went pale. I froze. Inside, I looked around. The boiler room corners dark, thick shadows, darker than they should be. Something was in the ceiling. A small scraping sound, then a soft giggle. Not from outside the door, from inside the room. One of the kids pointed upward, trembling. On the ceiling, something crawled. Slowly, delicately, like a spider. 2 small hands, 2 small feet. A child's body twisted like a puppet caught in a web. Its head was upside down, hanging toward us. Its neck stretched, its jaw unhinged wider and wider. It whispered in 100 voices at once. "You're it." The kid screamed. The creature dropped from the ceiling. I stumbled backward, falling over a toolbox. The creature landed on its hands and feet, crawling toward me with impossible speed. Its eyes locked on mine. Its mouth stretched from ear to ear, sharp as broken glass. Jonah threw himself at it, grabbing its arms. Another kid grabbed its legs. They wrestled it to the ground, but its limbs bent like rubber, twisting out of their grip. "Run!" Jonah screamed. "Evan, run!" I stumbled toward the door. The creature turned its head toward me, so fast the bones cracked. Tap! Tap! 2 taps on the floor. It lunged. I slammed into the boiler door and yanked it open. The hallway outside was darker than any darkness I'd ever seen. Like the mall swallowed all light, all sound, all hope. I sprinted. My feet pounded against the tile. My lungs burned. The hallways twisted around me, stretching, shrinking, changing direction. Behind me, dozens of footsteps. Small, fast, crawling, running, laughing. "Evan, you're it. Come back. Let us in. Play with us." I ran till my legs felt numb. The fountain appeared out of nowhere. Its water churned black, bubbling like boiling tar. Faces rose beneath the surface. Children's faces. Adults. Shifting, changing, merging like wax figures melting into each other. They stared at me silently. Then they spoke, in perfect unison. "Join us." A long, pale arm rose from the fountain. It reached toward me, finger by finger, each one longer than the last. I stumbled backward, straight into someone. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around. Eli stood there, or what was left of him. His eyes were hollow black pits. His smile was stitched into his cheeks with invisible thread. His body jerked like marionette strings, pulled too tight. He touched my arm. Tap, tap, 2 taps. Then he whispered gently, "It's too late now." My entire arm went numb. I screamed and shoved him away. He fell, limbs bending wrong, but he didn't react to pain. Just tilted his head, studying me. "You're almost one of us," he whispered. "Just one more minute. One more minute." My blood froze. Jonah appeared at the end of the hall, panting, covered in dust. "Evan, 2 Yim. It's 2. The mall is sleeping. 2 Yim. The moment the mall resets. The moment everything stops. Everything slowed around me. The fountain water stilled. The shadows froze. The air thickened like syrup. But Eli didn't freeze. He stepped toward me slowly. "You can't leave," he whispered. "You're ours now." I ran toward Jonah with everything I'd left. Eli lunged. A hand grazed my back but didn't tap. I dove through a doorway as the entire mall let out a deep, thunderous exhale. Then, silence. Complete silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Jonah pulled me behind a wall. We crouched there, breathing hard, waiting for the mall to become still. After a long minute, the lights flickered back on one by one. The fountain was empty again. Cracked. Dry. No water. No faces. No arms. Nothing. The escalators were stopped. Silent. Dead. The mirrors showed nothing but my exhausted face. No shadows. No creatures. No children. The mall had gone dormant. The kids gathered around Jonah. Some cried. Some whispered prayers. Some stared blankly, traumatized beyond words. Jonah helped me stand. "You made it," he said. "You survived." I looked down at my wrist. The black handprint was still there, but it didn't move, didn't pulse, just a stain on the skin. "Will it ever go away?" I whispered. Jonah shook his head slowly. "It never fully leaves," he said, "but it won't hunt you anymore. Not unless you come back." "I won't," I said. "I swear I won't." The kids exchanged nervous glances. Jonah took a slow breath. "You say that now," he whispered, "but the mall chooses who it calls back. Some of us get chosen. Some of us don't." I stepped back. "What do you mean?" "It touched you twice," he said. "You're marked forever. That means one thing." He looked right into my eyes. "One day, it will come for you again." My chest tightened. No, I whispered. No, I won't let it. You won't have a choice, Jonas said. A quiet, broken voice interrupted us. Evan. I turned. Eli stood at the far end of the hallway. Not smiling. Not twisted. Not monstrous. Just a boy. His head lowered. His arms limp at his sides. Before I could speak, he whispered, "It's not over." Then he melted into the shadows and disappeared. I swear to you, the shadows swallowed him like water. In the distance, somewhere deep in the mall's locked and silent tunnels, I heard a faint sound. Tap, tap, 2 taps. A whisper followed. You're still it. And I knew the truth. The mall wasn't done with me. Not even close. Its game had just begun.